Hi and welcome to this video on mastering CSS selectors. I'm doing this video because when I was at the beginning with test automation, I found it really hard sometimes to identify the web elements in a unique way, or even to identify the web elements. And that is because I had no prior experience into web development, and well, the concept of CSS was something strange to me. Didn't really know what those CSS, what CSS is, what it's all about, what to use it for. And although Selenium WebDriver does provide you with a couple of methods which help you identify web elements in a unique way, like ID, name, class name, most cases, which happen to me at least, you will need to have a CSS selector, or you will need to do XPath. I'm going to try and show you a couple of ways how to identify elements, which in turn will hopefully make you a master of CSS selectors. And we're going to use this site here, this for me -project.herokuapp.com. I have also a list of videos on how to do test automation with this site, how to handle buttons, check boxes, date pickers, and so forth. If you want, you can have a look there as well. I think it's useful if you're starting in test automation. But let's actually start now with the topic of the video. So when you have such a page, what's the first thing that you do? How can you identify a web element? I would say is pretty straightforward in the sense, okay, you open your inspector. You don't need no special, I don't know, extensions that help you here. The Chrome and Firefox, actually now Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Edge, all of the developer tools there provide in more than enough support to actually find the elements. Okay, so you have now opened your developer tools. You can do that by either pressing F12. Okay, let me just close it here and press F12. Or you can go anywhere on the page and just do inspect. It actually does help if you have a specific element, let's say this drag and drop, and you want to identify it. So you do inspect, and automatically the element is highlighted in the Elements tab. If, for example, you open the page and you're not on the element that you want, you just go here and with the selector, you go over the element and you click it. I don't know if you noticed, but the selector also provides some nice information. They're not related to what you're doing right now, but it does provide us some nice information about the element that we are currently hovering over, like font, color, padding. And actually, it also provides us with a selector, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so the first thing which you want to do or you want to search for when you have a web element is, does it have an ID or a class? There's no ID and class on this page, and for that we navigate here to the date picker. It's the same if you go here and you click on date picker. Let's just do it like this, and you have then the date picker page, and we want to find this element here. So like I said, you either go to the element, right click, click on inspect, and you have then the element selected. And here, if we hover a little bit up, we can see this is the element that we want. And if we start reading a little bit what's here, we have ID equals date picker. So we double click it, press Ctrl F. We have then this nice way to find the element by string selector or XPath. Google will do it automatically for us. And let's just paste date picker. So as you can see, it found a lot because it's doing it by string. Like it says there, string selector or XPath. Yeah. Okay. So if I want to tell the browser and to tell Selenium in the end, this is an ID, then I just need to put the sign there. I have right now a short memory gap. I don't remember how this sign is called, but it's pretty straightforward. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so now, and you see here you have one element of 1. So if you use this in your Selenium tests, let me just open IntelliJ for 1 second and I'll show you how you can use it. So I have here one small class. So you see Selenium, like I said, you can in Selenium find an element by ID and just give the ID name. So in our case, it would be date picker. But if you want to use CSS selector, you need to give the sign beforehand. And basically this and this line do the same thing. They identify the element via the ID. Okay, we'll just close this. Okay, now we saw how we can handle or find the element by ID. The next topic on the list would be how to find an element in a class or via the class element, that it has. So okay, let me just do it correctly. From for me, I go to buttons, close everything else, and if I go now on inspect, like I said, if you want a specific button from here, you click on the element selector and then go over the button, and then you have it here selected, and you can see it has a class. This class has a pretty big name. We can copy this again, doing Control F. Make this one smaller. Yeah. And the thing is, when you are dealing with classes, if you want Selenium to know that it is a class, you need to put a dot before the class name. And you see in this case, it found 12 elements which have a class with button in its name. For our purpose, since we have a class which is composed of more than one word, we need to do the following to tell Selenium we want a specific selector. We put a dot before each of the names and we remove the spaces from it. Okay, we still have a lot of elements, but this is how you handle multiple classes. If you were doing automation in this case, so you would identify your elements, an element list by this, and you can basically then just work with the elements by going one by one through that list, or saying I want, so you can see if you have a list of 7 elements, you say I just want the 4th element and I want to click the 4th element. So the besides classes, the next thing which is good to know about are elements. So if you would like to know or to select all of the elements of a specific type, for example, we want to select all of the divs. So apparently we have 9 divs, and if we go, it scrolls over it. Or let's see what else. So this is when we want to have a specific type. If you want all the buttons, it's a little bit of a mix up because that's also the string search. But the type button is with the button. If you want all the divs and the buttons, you just do it. Sorry, all the divs and buttons, you do it with a comma separator. So in this way, you basically select all of the divs and all of the buttons. Let's go to the main page. It's a little bit more clear here. So let's see how many divs we have here. We have 4 divs. Okay, not many. But we do have here are a lot of list elements. So list element is li. So it seems we have, and we don't have 25, we have less. So for example, in such a case, if you want to tell Selenium, give me the list elements, you can tell it, okay, you want something which doesn't exist also. So an ordered list, which is OL, it's not really there at the moment. If we do ordered list and list elements, we get only our 16 list elements. If you do unordered list, which is UL, you get one more because we do have an unordered list. So this is like a hack. If you want only these ones, but you also tell Selenium, okay, give me something which I don't have there. So you see this comma makes a lot of difference. If we were to remove the comma, we don't have much, because by removing the comma, we're telling Selenium, or in this case, yeah, I keep mentioning Selenium, but it's actually we're using a locator which says, get me all of the list elements which are under an unordered list, and we only have 2 of them. Yeah? So if I did with a comma, it got me all of the unordered lists and the list elements. If I did with an OL, got me all of the list elements. If I would remove the comma here, I would have nothing, because since I have no ordered list, I have then no list element in an ordered list. There's no ordered list to have that in. If we would want, for example, so you can see space has a meaning, comma has another meaning. There's also a little bit more there. So for example, if we want to get all of the links or all of the list items which contain a link, then we use the greater than sign. And this means get me all of the elements this is the link element, which are under a list element. If we would do here UL, it would get nothing, because it checks directly one level above. So above this one, we only have the list element. We can of course go even lower with this, but there's nothing lower here. So we had space, we had comma, we had greater than. We also have plus. The plus in our case doesn't return much, actually doesn't return anything. So the plus means select all of the items, all of the elements which are immediately after this element. Let's see if I do class here. So let me do it again. Li plus a. No, that doesn't return anything. It's bad example here, but let me see. So I want all, yeah, because I have, see, you have something more there. It doesn't, okay, but let's do the other way around. I want all of the A elements, which are, which before you have a list. And this is also literally nothing, because as we have seen, this is the exact opposite of the previous one. So this one says I want all of the link elements which proceed with, or which are preceded by a li element. Okay, we see now ID, we've seen class, and we've seen how we can work with different elements. What's next on the menu, if you want, are attributes, different attributes of the element. So let's see this element here, this autocomplete element. And one of their attributes is the href. So how would we write CSS? It says I want the href to be autocomplete. So that can be achieved by doing, I guess I want the href, yeah? And we will need to put it into brackets. And there are a couple of ways to do this. We're not going to go full on, let's say, equals. We're going to go starts with, ends with, and contains. So starts with is actually the sign before the equals, and let's say it starts with auto. Okay, maybe I need big auto. Auto. It's small auto. Yeah, this is how it starts. So it starts with auto. Let's see, if I start with dr, it should have a little bit more because it takes the drag and drop and the drop down. Correct. So this starts with. Don't worry, don't need to write everything down. I will provide you at the end of the video with a link to a cheat sheet and also to a reference to a site where you can get a lot of cheat sheets on different subjects. But coming back to our video. So this one is starts with, yeah. We also have contains and ends with. Okay, let's do contains. So contains, just need to remove that part and add this. Of course, since dr is really specific, we get the same results, but let's see, do we have something which might, yeah, we have ck from date picker, and we need to remove this. So checkbox has ck in it, and date picker also has ck in it. So this is contains. And we also have ends. And for ends, we just need to put the dollar. Okay, let's see, what can we add there? Don't have a lot which end in the same thing. Let's see if we put end in S. We have a few buttons, press, of course, SS, mouse press, or put scroll. So we have the page scroll. Okay, so there you have it for this one. We saw how we have starts with, ends with, and contains. But besides this starts, ends, and contains, there's also the possibility to actually search by a specific attribute of an element if it equals a certain value. For example, if we go to the checkboxes, we have here, as you can see, checkbox 1, 2, and 3. And if I want checkbox number 2, let's just open it a bit, and I see here it has a value of checkbox 2. So I can actually do value checkbox 2. And in this way, I can select actually the element which has the value of checkbox number 2. Let's go to drop downs. Okay, it did. Drop down I have, this one is a little bit more tricky because it has a lot of elements there, and seems to be again the hrefs. Okay, there's one reason why I went here, but this, if for example we want to select all of the non-visited links here, these are not per se links, although they do behave like links, but let's see if we can do this. So we have the A, which is here, and let's say visited. Nothing. It seems I haven't visited none of them. So let's try with not visited. Well, actually, because they're not really links, it's a bad place to have this example. However, what I want to show in this page, I want to show the concept of child, or better said, nth child. So as you can see, I have here the div, a div which has a lot of under points. These are considered childs. Of course, we can go ahead and identify, like we've seen before, identify these elements by the href. But if we want to know, for example, or if we want to click always the last child or always the first child, we can identify those. So we just need the div, firstly. And then we need from the div its childs. Unfortunately, to get what we want, since there are more than one divs, it's not unique, I first need to get this div here. And I can achieve that if I copy their class. And as you've seen before, we put the dots before the texts and remove the spaces. And then I just say last child. And the last child we could open this one. So they have to find the last child and the first child. It's the autocomplete, first child. You also can do the X child, which is called the nth child, and in this case we need to give it which child it is. Let's say the third one. So this is the checkbox. Go with the fourth one, ninth one, and so forth. Okay, well actually I think that's pretty much it. But I won't let you off that easily. So as I said, I want to show you or I'll provide you a cheat sheet or a link to a specific cheat sheet, which I have it right here. And this includes all of the topics which we discussed, and also includes a really nice playground for you to try out the selectors. So how does this work? On the left side, you have the selector, and on the right side, you have the HTML code. And it is nice because you can also see the actual code with the tags and not only how the page would look. So for example, like we saw, if we click on the intro, we get the class with the intro because it has the dot. If we want based on ID, we want the element which has a last name, which has last name as ID. This way we can get all the h tags. If you remember, we said you can get all of the divs. This way we get all of the h tags and the p elements. This way we have all the p elements which are inside of a div. These are all the p elements which have a div as a parent. So as you can see, they're mostly, in most cases, would be the same. This one, all the p elements which are next to a UI element. This selects everything, all of the elements. That is impossible to use in Selenium. I mean, you can try and use it. Then you have a list with all of the elements. And from here, it's a mixture. So we didn't see a lot of mixtures, but what this does is it selects the p elements which have a class of my quotes. So you can also combine the classes. And afterwards, so we have here the IDs, classes which have an ID with my address, an ID which ends in ESS. What we didn't see is this part here, because so this is part of the finding elements which have a specific attribute. But this one we did see with the last child. Yeah, and you can do even and odd. This part we didn't have a look at. But I'm sending you this, or I'm including this in the description of the video so that you can have a look. And you also will get the link to this cheat sheet. This is from a page called Cheatography, where you can get a lot of really useful cheat sheets, which can help store a lot of useful information for different subjects in a good way. I hope you like this video. I hope it helps you after watching this video how you can, or it helps you with your identification of the web elements. And if you liked it, subscribe and give a thumbs up. If you didn't, comment what you think I can do better in the next one. And if you have any requests for videos, just let me know and I'll try to make it work. Thank you again for watching the video and see you in the next one.